Believing that you have to be perfect when you get out there on camera or get it right when you do your first sales call is going to stop you and scare the heck out of you from showing up to begin with. Okay, are you all caught up? Ready for part 2? In this part, we're going to dive into the 6 remaining ways that you might be self-sabotaging, and you want to learn to catch yourself when you are doing these things so you can begin to break out of those self-sabotaging loops and patterns once and for all. If you're somebody who's finding this series very helpful, you want to hit subscribe and toggle that notification button so that you get alerted when I drop a hot new video on this series. This entire series is all about self-sabotage, so please comment below and leave your thoughts or questions so that I can answer them and create content specifically to answer your questions. Now enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Nicole, a life and business coach for high-functioning women. I'm a self-proclaimed foodie, content creator, educator, and your new abundance bestie. In my world, we talk about all things to do with elevating your life. I post weekly videos helping the everyday woman embody her highest self, create inner wealth, master her mindset, unlock her femininity, and be an absolute boss in life. I create resources, trainings, and host experiences online and in person in order to help you reconnect to your true self. Not the one you think you need to be, but the you that you were born to be. So you can reclaim your power and amplify your voice to lead, love, and create as a woman. If you like my vibe and you want a little bit more abundance in your life, hit subscribe to be notified whenever I drop a new episode. And be sure to check out the free resources in the description below. Number 6, attachment to what you really don't want. Sometimes the things that you say you want or you think you want are actually borrowed desires from other people. Perhaps they were learned in your conditioning as a young child, from your parents, your guardians, your teachers, mentors, friends, or perhaps it's through the media and marketing and all the things that your current society and environment tells you matters. Sometimes your inability to actually perform or meet the standards required in a certain area of your life is an indicator that you don't actually really want it at all. You've just been really good at convincing yourself that you do. This happens a lot in relation to money goals and particularly lifestyle goals, and I teach on this really deeply in my webinar Money Liberation, where I help you uncover what is actually driving your desire for money and how do you become free from the grip of money, whether you have lots or little of it, so that you can live life more fully and not be so attached to the having or not having of money. And what I found is that so many of us are just simply not tuning in enough to ask ourselves, what truly matters to me? What do I actually want? And because of that, we are chasing, we are working hard, we are doing all these actions just to check boxes because of a goal, a desire, an expectation that we placed or somebody else placed on ourselves that has gone unchecked and it's been way outdated for years. How you know that you are in a place where it is just your desires are not really yours is that you don't feel fulfilled by the work it takes to get there. There's a difference between working with intention even when it's hard and working because it's hard and working like you're slaving away and not really knowing or feeling any level of fulfillment and purpose to what you're doing. Whether you are working for someone else to build your career or building your own business, it is so important to ask yourself, what do I really want? Because perhaps your attachment to these desires, these goals, outcomes, and these possessions and status are really not things that you want, and that's why maybe you unconsciously keep self-sabotaging every job that you enter. Perhaps your deepest core value is freedom, be remote. This is huge because if you're consistently trying to fit yourself into a box or go to a 9-to-5 job in an office, then you're going to unconsciously self-sabotage that job every single time because deep down you know and believe and want to be a freelancer and to live and work remotely. So check your desires. And I know it's hard to overcome this, and that is literally why I coach people on this in my life and business programs, because it is hard to decide that you are worthy of the things you want, particularly because we have learned to attach to everything that we are today. And it can be hard to break the identity or break out of the molds that you have created for yourself because it feels completely unnerving and it feels like you're taking yourself out of the familiar and the safety. However, it isn't impossible, and that is how you begin to radically change your life, by taking those incremental steps to firstly ask yourself whether this is really what you want and whether this is your desires or somebody else's, and secondly, reaching out for help, getting into a program, hiring a coach, or perhaps equipping and investing in learning, accountability, in skills that you maybe have never dared to take the leap in before. The only way that you will know is if you try. So it's important that you make decisions every single day from the person that you are today and from the person you want to be tomorrow. Stop using the past as a reference point or as a navigation guide for your future, because your past is only really ever going to try to keep you in your past, because again, it's the familiar known. No, with the desire to grow and change will inevitably come resistance, the magic R word that keeps coming up today. But that is okay, because change requires resistance. The unknown and all the possibilities and potentials are literally in the realm of the unknown, and all of that comes with resistance, but that is okay, and that is how you grow. Acknowledge that certain things that your parents might value, other people around you, society may not align to you, and that's okay. Your work is to put yourself around people who do see life the way that you do, or to get around environments that allow you to thrive and feel like more of yourself. Particularly even teaching your friends, your family, your partners how to communicate with you by helping them understand what it is that you value in life and communicating to them when they are maybe projecting or imposing their beliefs on you. I know this can be hard. I'm an ethnic too. I know that the dialogue between us and our parents and the whole respect thing is huge, but slowly allow yourself to navigate through this by taking just one tiny step at a time and just testing the waters. Invite people to have a dialogue with you rather than feel like you are obligated to have to take on their opinion, and just soaking it up like a sponge. Evaluate what you believe. Think about what you're thinking about rather than just soaking everything up like it's true. Even if the advice is coming from people that you love and do want the best for you, but are just not living your life. Remember, it is your life and you have to live with it. Number 7, pride. Pride is our downfall. Isn't that from the Bible? Probably not. When we are prideful, it's because we are more attached to the image or the version of how we want something to happen versus how it actually is happening. Pride is our inability to take account for or accept needing to make a change, or perhaps asking for support, simply because we worry about how others are going to perceive us or look at us. Our pride sometimes is informed by our culture, our family, our upbringing, and even our environment. And it's so important to catch yourself when you are operating your life from a place of pride. And this is self-sabotage, because when you are prideful, you disallow yourself to see what's really happening in front of you. It means that you are constantly believing that you are right and you know best, and you don't allow yourself for more learning. A lot of your relationships will break down because you simply don't have the tools or haven't practiced communication enough to relate to people and to come to an agreement or resolve. You simply want it your way or the highway. Pride is also a way for you to avoid having to deal with the humility and the vulnerability of being wrong, or maybe not even wrong, because I don't even think anything in life is either black or white, right or wrong. I think it's more the feeling of having to learn. When you're prideful, you're always saying things like, I know, I've tried that, like you've tried every possible solution. No. As a coach, I hear my clients say things like this all the time, where when they are extremely frustrated and they are feeling really vulnerable and defeated, often their reflex is to go into a prideful state, to be like, I've tried that, it's worked already, it hasn't worked, or I know what I'm doing. And what this does is it blocks them from learning, it blocks them from seeing their business from a different angle and from discovering new solutions and innovating. Pride is kind of like rigid, whereas possibility and openness and having the mindset of a beginner or a student is so helpful. The greatest teachers and leaders are people who know how to listen. They don't say, I've arrived, I'm already perfect, I've got all the skills, and they don't sit in that high chair, because they know that the best way to relate to people, the best way to influence, and the best way to lead themselves is to always be learning, is to always be curious, and to always be open. So notice when your pride is getting in the way of your ability to evolve, and when you are stunting your own growth because you're saying, I've arrived, I'm good now. And you also want to see yourself more honestly, rather than thinking that you need to prove to everybody how good you are or how popular you are or whatever it is that you're trying to prove. Remember that you don't need to be perfect. You don't owe it to anyone to be flawless. You don't need to be so put together all the time. I struggled with this for so long, especially as someone who presented herself as a professional in the coaching space, particularly teaching business skills. I really got sucked into that identity and I lost a little bit of myself. It was only when I started to let myself be more shameless, unapologetic, more silly, more of me and more nuanced, that I noticed people love that part of me way more. Number 8, what's going on there, is the guilt of succeeding. This is the sense of guilt that arises whenever you are doing well or you feel happy, content, peaceful, blissful, joyful, happy, insert any positive emotion in the face of so much suffering, so many people around us who are basically miserable. In a world with so much pain and misery, feeling successful and allowing yourself to feel happy with what you have and what you've accomplished can feel really isolating, and it can make you seem really obnoxious. But remember, when somebody is not happy with how happy you are, it's just them projecting their own unhappiness. We often sabotage the higher feelings like joy, peace, calm with actions that create the opposite result. So for example, if you feel guilt for being successful or making money very easily or making money in a way that feels fun, then you might unconsciously spend all that money as a way to get rid of it, so that you no longer have to be identified with the person who has lots of money or has made money doing what you love. I know I experienced this a lot as a brand new business owner, and I really struggled with accepting that people just weren't having the same experience as I was, and that was okay. I allowed myself to normalize making money doing what I love rather than feeling bad for enjoying myself for how I made money. I love the work I get to do, and not many people get to say that, but that is not my problem. That is for them to problem solve and figure out how they can make a living out of doing what they love. What I'm here to do is to shine my light, to help people, and the more that I allow myself to enjoy that and to feel proud of that, the less guilt I will feel and the less I will self-sabotage my own potential for success. Most of us, we want to create a successful life, a life with choices, with freedom, with money, with opportunities, and it's not unless we catch ourselves in envy or judgment of other people who have the life we want to live, then we will continue to perpetuate the same reality that we have now. I released a podcast episode on this way back when I started my podcast, talking about our thoughts about rich people. I personally didn't come from a rich upbringing. I didn't have much money growing up, and in order for me to break the ceiling of money and financial influx in my life, I had to really catch my thoughts about people who made lots of money, because by me consistently judging them and having negative thoughts about people who made more money, I was basically isolating myself and putting a wall up between myself and that reality. Because put simply, your brain is not going to allow you to become a person that you do not like. So if you don't like rich people, you have judgment against them, or you think the people who run their own businesses are snobby and stuck up, then you're never going to have a successful business yourself, because you're going to unconsciously self-sabotage when you try to build one yourself. Remember that money and time are simply resources. They are not a measurement of value. As much as the world wants to say that it is, the reality is, if you want to be liberated from the self-sabotaging habit of feeling guilt whenever you are succeeding, and you want to really give yourself the opportunity to stand outside of the money and the status and not make it mean anything. What if somebody could have lots of money and they could be an equally good or equally bad person? The fact that they have XYZ possessions didn't mean anything about how worthy they were as a person. We detach these metrics from the worth of people and the value of that people have, then we'll do the same to ourselves. We allow ourselves more grace to succeed and to feel good about that success, and to not unconsciously try to self-sabotage it so that we don't feel different or more superior. A lot of the time we're unconsciously unconsciously trying not to be successful and self-sabotaging our own capacity to influence and have powerful impact and make lots of money by not showing up, not putting in the work, letting our fears get the best of us, listening to other people's opinions even though we know what we want to do. We do these things because deep down we haven't really uprooted our fear of being successful and our fear of being seen doing what we love, especially because a lot of the people around us and a lot of our conditioning teaches us that work should be miserable, that we don't deserve to make money easily, especially if you've grown up with a struggle story like mine. This is again exactly why I do the money liberation workshop, because of this exact thing. We are living our lives way too stuck in our conditioning, in our learned beliefs, rather than learning to reprogram how we think and see the world and create a life that we actually love, where we are in control rather than just reactive and responding based on what we were programmed growing up with. Number 9, we are almost there, you guys. Judging others. Gossiping, talking about others is a self-sabotage habit, because what you're essentially doing when you are gossiping, what you're essentially doing is trying to find negative things about other people so that you feel better or feel somewhat more validated. It's a conversation about power. When you feel bad about your own inadequacies, or you have really harsh self-judgment, aka you're your own worst critic, which is basically all of us, then it is going to be quite natural for you to judge or inflict harsh judgments about somebody who is great at something that you're not. This quality is so human. It's not anything to feel bad about, but it is something you want to catch yourself on when you instinctually want to do that as a way to protect yourself. Because if you judge somebody for being successful, like that example I said earlier, what happens is that you unconsciously and inevitably repel success from coming your way. You block yourself from being able to access that thing. Because if somebody has that quality, that experience, that reality, and you secretly want it, but you're judging them from having it, what you're basically saying to your brain and to your self-concept and to the universe is, I don't want that thing. Because if I have that thing, then I'm going to be judged. Because you are literally sitting there judging them. So it's a setup for blocking yourself, guaranteed, from the things you want. So catch yourself when you are judging somebody else and notice the things you're saying about them and ask yourself, what is it saying about me and what I believe for myself? More often than not, we are spending our energy projecting and channeling all of this judgment on other people when we really need to be focusing in on why are we even putting our energy there? What is it saying about us and our deepest desires and the things that we don't believe we're deserving of having or accessing? And go to work on that. Put your energy towards that instead. One of my favorite analogies is if you point one finger this way, there's always going to be 4 fingers pointing back. So if you say something about someone, you better ask yourself the same thing 4 times, because you got to check on yourself. If you're picking at somebody else's flaws, what is it about yourself that you feel so insecure about? Because when you are not insecure about something, you don't even have time to pick on other people. You literally love your life. If you are secure in your worth, then you don't care how much money everybody else is making. You don't even feel the need to announce how much you make because you're secure in it. You don't need it to validate you. So whether or not you say how much you make or not, you're like, I don't care. I'm still worthy regardless. But the people who are deeply insecure, they hide behind the amount of money they make. They hide behind what their accomplishments are. So on either ends of the spectrum, notice when you hold judgment and you gossip as a way to avoid dealing with what you are deeply insecure about. Number 10, the fear of failing. The fear of failing is a huge one that we are all too familiar with. It's basically deciding not to attempt something because you're afraid that it won't work out. Typically, this shows up in catastrophic thoughts, thinking the worst case scenario all of the time. And this is a way to foolproof our journey or an illusion that we have control, because the more that we're rehearsing the scenario in our mind, the more that we're thinking about the things we're anxious of and the things that could go right, could go wrong, the more that we're in that stage of like just living it out in our mind but not actually doing anything, it gives us an illusion that we have control. But that is 100% false, because we never really have control. The only way that you get better at something is by doing it and doing it over and over and over and over again. So when you are in this sabotage cycle of the fear of failing, typically you're not even attempting, you're not even trying. It's kind of cross-linked with perfectionism. And the most important thing I want you to know about this point is that your fear of failing at something is only really going to come up if you care about the thing that you're attempting. So take it as a good sign if you are afraid of failing at something, because you are simply attempting something great, something you are connected to, something that matters to you. One of my favorite quotes from Theodore Roosevelt talks about the analogy of it is far better to be in the ring and to be trying, to be in the dirt, in the grit, in the blood and sweat. I will flash the actual quote up because I'm probably butchering it right now, than it is to just sit there on the sidelines. There is more honor in daring greatly and being willing to be in the arena than just sitting there on the sidelines. Because again, like the other point I made earlier, it's not about what you intend or what you say you'll try, it's about what you decide to do and what you actually act on. So remember that failing is an inevitable part of life. It is not good or bad. Failing is just life. And the more you fail, the more you live your life. Oh, tweet that. And remember that failing is not a step back. Failure is just another step forward. It maybe just wasn't pretty. Failing might not be comfortable. Failing might not have been your ideal scenario, but it's still a step forward because at least you tried. The only way you actually really fail is by not trying and not getting into the ring. And the 11th and final sign of self-sabotage is downplaying. That's basically attempting to be more likable, relatable, or not fully taking ownership of your results, of your success, because you don't want to seem up yourself, for lack of a better word. A lot of researchers also say that we downplay certain things because we want to avoid the feeling of peaking, which is basically feeling like you've arrived. Because when you feel like you have arrived at, like, say, the peak of a mountaintop, then there's nowhere else to go. You've achieved the thing, and then you might potentially just be disappointed at the outcome. There's that quote that says something along the lines of, I would rather my heroes stay my heroes and that I never meet them rather than getting to actually know them. That is probably not the quote. As you can tell, I'm terrible with quotes, but you get it, right? So we don't want to experience the best of something. We don't want to own that we are here, that we've made it, simply because we don't want to be that guy who toots his own horn way too often and annoys everybody. But the reality is, downplaying is only doing a disservice to you. In fact, people are encouraged by you taking ownership of your success and celebrating, because as a culture, as a society, we just don't do it enough. We demonize people who are up themselves or who celebrate their own successes, and we call them narcissists, when sometimes it's actually them in a healthy expression being genuinely proud of themselves. And as a society, we're just so uncomfortable with it because we just don't do it enough that we have to judge other people who do it. But in my world, in my coaching containers, in my circles, in my community, you will never not catch me celebrating you. I don't care if it's your birthday or not. If you had a win, something, whether big or small, that you overcame, we are celebrating the heck out of you, because celebrating solidifies your self-concept. It elevates your sense of who you are. Why wouldn't you do it? Especially in a world where everybody is living from this constant lack mindset of never being enough, never having enough, and never feeling fulfilled. We are taught, especially as women, not to be proud. We are taught that to celebrate or to stop, to rest, to acknowledge pleasure. We are taught that these things are bad, they're lazy, they're too soft, but that is not the way. The fact that there is a exhaustion and burnout epidemic in our society shows us the reason why we actually need this. It shows us the lack of this ability to celebrate and really feel our own success. So whether it's a small thing or a big thing, you get to celebrate it as loud as you want. And don't you dare other people's insecurity or inability to celebrate themselves stop you from celebrating your own. I've experienced this so much in my journey as a person, in my growth, as well as in my business, where I've felt like I have had to make myself small and not share my wins because somebody else was going to feel bad about themselves, or they were going to make the story about them, or they were going to demonize me for celebrating myself. And all these things do happen in the real world, but at the end of the day, you get to walk away no matter what they say and feel so damn good, because you deserve to. Remember that even if you feel like you have made it to the top, being human means you will also inevitably go down to the ebbs and flows. Nothing is permanent, everything is transient, everything is always changing. So even in that moment of bliss, enjoy it. And when you're in that downhill or the downward spiral, maybe it won't be enjoyable, but sit in it. Allow it to teach you things and really live in that experience. That is all for this video. Now you know 11 ways that self-sabotage shows up for you and how to catch yourself on it. In the rest of this series, I'm going to be talking about more specific strategies and specific scenarios that these self-sabotage traits show up, particularly the ones that are the most popular for us who are trying to grow and become our best selves. If you found this video helpful, I want to invite you one last time to join the workshop New Era Energy, where I'm going to be diving deep into this work and teaching you some of the industry's best and most effective tools for overcoming self-sabotage behaviors and creating lasting, lifelong change. Join me inside. And finally, as you know, I have a community called the I Am Her Collective that you can be a part of for free, where you get to sit across the screen from me and I get to coach you specifically on what you're going through and give you practical strategies for becoming that girl in your life. And all you need to do is click the link below to join the Discord community and jump on in our inside. We will have free workshops, webinars, resources, trainings, private podcast episodes, and expert coaches diving in to coach you and support you in your journey to becoming your best self. So all you need to do is click the link below. It is a free community once again, and I hope I'll see you there. All right, I'll catch you in the next video on this series. Bye. If you want to take your abundance to another level, I want to help you. I'm a life and business coach for women who want to step into their next level by activating wealth from the inside out. To help you take your first step to unlocking true abundance and your aligned potential, I'm giving you free resources, workshops, and masterclasses that you can access on demand right now. Check out www.nicoleconception.co/free-resources to get your hands on it. For more videos like this, check out the other playlists and series I have on this channel, and don't forget to hit subscribe to be notified whenever I drop a new video. And if you're more of the podcast type, check out Freedom in Flow, where I dive even deeper into the concepts that will help you create less hustle and more flow, abundance, and alignment in your life and business. Now, if you're a reader, you'll want to subscribe to my email list for unfiltered, honest, and most importantly, applicable life upgrades. Now, don't be a stranger. Connect with me on Instagram and TikTok and send me a message. I love getting to know you and your story. It's why I do this. Okay, my lovely, that's all for now. I'll see you soon. Signing off, Nicole.